Welcome to another episode of Biz Buzz 413. I am your host, Jill Monson. And this show, as you know, is part of Living Local 413, the initiative that is basically bringing together all of the amazing stuff going on in the four counties. So you've got Hampden, Hampshire, Franklin, and Berkshire. And we bring everything together under one roof. And that roof is Living Local 413. And so when you go there, you can get things like different connections. You can join our online platform. I kind of call it like LinkedIn Local. I'm not using that because, it's probably trademarked, but the idea, you can join us there. You can become a member. You don't have to be a member, though. There's this extensive calendar that tells you everything going on up and down and around in the 413. It's just awesome. And then we created this podcast. So we created Biz Buzz 413 to really be able to start to spotlight different people, different members, different entrepreneurs, seasoned experts, and to talk about the things that people are talking about in our community. And that led us to today. And I'll tell you about our guest in 1 second. But if you think you or someone you know should be featured, please email me. You can do so at bizbuzz@livinglocal413.org. And that is BIZ1Z, BUZZ, two Z's. bizbuzz@livinglocal413.org. And so today we have a sleeper of a topic. No, I'm just kidding. We have a topic that no one wants to talk about, but we all need to. My guest is Bud Sumner, partner at Sumner Toner Insurance Services. Welcome, Bud.
Chill, thank you very much.
You're not going to put us to sleep, are you?
No, absolutely. You have to have it. So,
And that's the thing, right? Nobody wants to talk about things that are difficult. Like I just went through recently the, healthcare proxy power of attorney will conversation with the older parents. And it was like, having that conversation, nobody wants to have it, but those insurance, these are important topics that we need to talk about and make sure we have it figured out. And that's why we wanted you to be on here. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank you because Sumner and Toner is a member of Living Local 413. And we just want you to know how much we appreciate you.
no, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So, first of all, I actually, I think you might be in witness protection. So I was told by Tammy, who reached out to me and suggested you as a guest, you should have Warren's. Then all of a sudden your email switched and now I'm calling you Bud. So do I need to know anything? Can you give me a little bit of what that's about, please?
No, my real name is Warren. I'm named after my father, grandfather, and great grandfather. So I am the fourth generation. But yeah, to keep the
Wow.
confusion down, they just call me Bud, and my mom also refused to call me Warren. So,
I love it. Can you tell everybody, because I think your full name is like, I think it's Regal. Can you tell everybody what your full name is?
Warren Sidney Sumner the fourth. Please make sure you bow or curtsy.
I will try my very best. And on the other side of the shingle, you've got the toner part of the brand. So Sumner and Toner. And I don't know if you know this, but your partner, Jack Toner, who's also generationally been in the business, but Jack Toner and I, way back, were co-vice presidents together of the Young Professional Society.
No, I
So
didn't. I knew he was part of it. But yes, Jack is a second generation to his father, Bill. Yeah.
it's so crazy because we used to think Jack and Jill, we were such a duo, but now I think maybe it's just Bud and Jack, and Jill really did fall down the hill or something. Anyway, so I want to know a little bit about because you mentioned you're second generation in the business, and then also, on the other side, Jack is to Bill. So tell me from your perspective, what is it like to be a second generation agent or owner within this industry?
Well, obviously, I think it just puts a lot of education and experience in front of us, meaning Jack and I, when we joined.
Mm.
So my father and Bill had multiple years of selling experience, service experience, and really taking a personal interest in the clients in the local community. So when we all joined, and I joined almost 28 years ago, that's one of the first things you learn, not just so much about insurance, but actually about, servicing, being out in the community and being visible.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, and that's, a big part of any generational business, I think, because you can't completely be devoid of everything that the previous generation brought to the table. So people might wonder if this is just going to be a sales pitch, and I want people to know it is not. I always encourage people to, shop around, look at different businesses. But it's important, I think, that before the purpose of having you on and what we're going to ultimately talk about is a lot of the changes in insurance today. But before we do, I do want people to know, just because I want you to be able to show them your expertness, if you will, the 30,000-foot explanation of Sumner and Toner Insurance Services. And, quite honestly, not only what you do, but then how you and Jack think you do it different.
Sure. No, well, we're a small town agency, we like to say. Again, we're visible. We see people on the street. We see people at the market. We're involved in local community things like you were saying, whether it be with Rotary with Jack or young agents, young, professionals. We're in different areas. I actually live
Mhm.
in Needham, Massachusetts. I've been there for 30 plus years. And so we have clients that are all over the state now. When my father
Okay.
and Bill were together, they were mostly in the small area of the 413, if not even just Longmeadow, East Longmeadow, Wilbraham, Springfield, surrounding areas. We actually bring a little bit more to the table now with multiple states, multiple
Mm,
areas, different types of experiences with that. And again, what we try to do is obviously put the client first, shop for the best premium, but also the best coverage.
right. Thank you. Because like the best price is great until something happens and then you call your agent and they're like, oh, yeah, you didn't have
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, Jill, you're in the marketing. I mean, there's always taglines.
Right.
Jack and I can save you 15% in 15 minutes too, but you're not going to be happy when you find out your deductible is now 10,000 where it used to be 1,000, or you have
Yeah.
half the coverage that you thought you had. So
Right.
it's really slow down a little bit, just make sure you're getting the right coverage and then find the best price.
And that's the thing I've always said, I'll give up the, if you will, mayhem or the bird to make sure, that things make sense. And I use a personal example for this. This was years back, but I had a client when I had my marketing agency, and I'll never forget. It was a business client. He had his agent come in, sit down. It was a small restaurant, and in the restaurant, he had 3 glass walls and 1 brick wall. And so the agent comes in, sits down, does his policy. He crosses agent goes off. A couple weeks later, the business gets broken into. And this is a true story. Now, I might surprise people, but they didn't break in through the brick wall. And fortunately, nobody was hurt and like minimal stuff was taken, but still there was glass coverage that needed to be, the all needed to be repaired. So he calls the company and they say, "Well, you don't have glass coverage." He says, "What do you mean? I have 3 glass walls and a brick wall." And they said, "But you don't have glass coverage." And he said, "But my agent sat right here at this table in my restaurant. How much would glass coverage have cost me?" And it was some minimal amount for the, annual premium. And so needless to say, he had to spend a lot of money to fix his glass where he could have had it covered by insurance had his agent paid attention and had he known enough to read the fine details of his policy. And I use that example a lot because the paperwork's not easy to read, but take the time to go through it. And if you have questions and you have the right agent, like you guys, Jack or you, Bud, you're going to help people. He could have said, I don't notice glass coverage on here. And you would have been like, oh, that was, an accidental, omission. Let me fix it. Right. And I think it's sad when that happens to people when they could have otherwise been.
And we have the same examples where we'll have people call us and say, "Hey, I need to file a claim for my windshield." One of the, most frequent claims we have, a rock hits your windshield.
Right.
And one time a lady called me and I said, "You don't have a policy with us." And she got very angry at me. And I reminded her that she went to some other direct carrier who did not put glass coverage on her auto. So,
Mm.
some people even forget they switched, to be honest with you, Joe.
Well, and I also think people think it's so hard to switch. Like maybe they're unhappy where they are. So then I understand it's a little bit daunting because there's stuff that has to be done. But if you have the right person that, like, in finding, if they want to switch from a company they don't like to you guys, you're going to help them walk through the process and make it as seamless as possible. And then hopefully that's the last time they ever have to switch. So
We hope.
you mentioned, you guys do, you do personal, you do business, and you do professional insurance. So you really do have this broad spectrum of knowledge, which is great.
Well, we try. I mean, a lot of it's experience. And, we're, again, a small town agency. We're an independent agent. So we
Mm.
represent more than one carrier.
Okay.
So when you do call us, at least I can say, "Jill, we have 3 or 4 different options for you."
Okay.
Now, some may not be good options, some may be better than others, but you got to be careful on quoting too often too, because the carriers now are starting to penalize people if you shop too often. So if you
Mm.
jump around from carrier to carrier to carrier, and they can tell this, they don't want to be the next one to take you because then they know that you're going to take it and then probably leave in 6 or 12 months. So
Interesting.
sometimes building a little loyalty, not just with the agent, but also with the carrier is beneficial.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that because that's one of the changes I think that we're seeing or more recently seeing. Before we do, I wanted to ask you, you mentioned that, you serve clients sort of, spattered throughout the New England area. I know, I think it's, obviously Massachusetts, Maine, Connecticut, Vermont, Rhode Island, and you have the office in Longmeadow. You obviously have the office in Eastern Mass where you're physically located. But what's interesting to me, I did some research on you. Once I got past, all the really crazy stuff, Bud. No, just kidding. I did see that you attended high school in the 413. And then if I got this correct, you went to the university, you went out to Ohio University and then came back
Correct.
to Massachusetts. So I just wanted to talk about the idea because here we are. We want to talk about what's great about the 413. And I do realize that you live in Eastern Mass, but you have obviously, very strong ties in the business based here in 413. So, as someone who left the area, went out to Ohio, what was the draw back to Western Massachusetts for you?
Well, obviously when you graduate college, the first thing you do is move back home, right? So you come home with all your laundry and all the stuff, you throw everything away, you start looking for a real job. And my first job was with a insurance company just south of Longmeadow, Aetna Life and Casualty.
Mhm.
So I was a rep from them. I got into the insurance business. My father then was also getting into the insurance business, buying a neighbor's insurance agency, and then
Okay.
a few years later I joined him. The reason was I was a rep, but I just happened to be a rep for Aetna out in the eastern part of the state. So I didn't join my father right away.
Okay.
I actually, learned and earned my way into the business a little bit more than just walking into it, which a lot of people think happens. But no, we settled in Needham, Massachusetts. I met my wife out there, who happens to be a 413 girl. Maureen grew up in Springfield. She went to Cathedral. She then went to Holy Cross, and
Yoo-hoo, love
but
it.
we just both met in Boston, and we both just decided to raise a family there. Probably a lot of it was because some of our other family was in the Boston area as well. But no, the Springfield's a fantastic area. And honestly, I think it's a little bit more, people are a little bit more loyal out here and not as quick to change. And you get to know them because they're a lot more entrenched here in a local business or self-owned business,
Right.
where in Boston, you got a lot more people coming and going.
Right. Well, here's the thing too. Obviously, Bill, creating Living Local 413, myself as, the reason I joined his initiative to do this podcast, I could have done any podcast, but I wanted this one is because I'm loyal to Western Massachusetts.
Mhm.
However, I don't say that to say that Boston is bad or, Hartford is bad or Keene, New Hampshire is bad or Brattleboro, right? We cannot exist in a silo. And unfortunately, I think 413 mentality in some sense has been that silo because that 495 divide. And what I love about what Bill's doing is building these relationships across that highway and into, our capital to make sure that, we just had an event, not, I guess, gosh, it's been what, like 6 weeks now, 8 weeks. I don't know. I'm losing time, but we had our 413 entrepreneur event, the first one we kicked off in September. And Jay Ash came, former secretary Jay Ash, who he's living in the Boston area, but he came out. Katie Stebbins came out. She used to be here. She's out in Boston because people see the value. And I love that Living Local 413 is doing that. We're saying, hey, we've got great stuff here. But if we don't make sure that great stuff here is connected to the great stuff there, we're going to be an island and that's not going to work. So that being said, sorry, that was kind of a monologue. I apologize, bud. So I do want to wrap up with the part of the conversation that I want to talk about, which is I feel as a consumer of insurance, I've seen some changes, but I don't know if it's just my POV, my perspective. So what from your perspective as the company that's doing this every day, are you seeing changing in, 2025 and what do we foresee changing as we go forward into the new year?
Sure. Yeah. And one of the things when you were talking about the silo or the 413 also, Jill, is we have a fantastic staff here, which most local places will say. And what really sets us apart, our staff's all been here for so long. So that's
Mm,
good thing that we can retain them, but they also know the clients, they know the people, they know the streets.
yeah, that's important.
It is. So one of the great things about more out here is just really like Jack and I get to know the people when we see them, but so does our staff. So that's why we're committed to keeping the office here. Committed to keeping the staff here and just provide a high level of service. To answer your other question, in 2008 is when the auto rates went to a competitive market, meaning the state of auto insurance switched from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts setting the rates to now being an open market.
Mhm.
So the Commonwealth still sets how many points you get if you get a speeding ticket or in an accident, but now the insurance companies can charge a premium based on what they want to charge. So somebody may charge you 2 grand, somebody may charge you three, even though you still have the same 2 points if you had an accident.
Oh, okay.
So
Hmm.
what has happened is it used to be the homeowners market was the competitive market, and then you got the same auto rate no matter where you went.
Okay.
Now everybody's, including direct writers, jumping in and trying to save. So, there's a few things that have changed drastically. The insurance companies, like with all the AI information, I call it a magic eight ball, now determine your rate based on how often or how long you've been with an agent, how long you've been with a carrier.
Interesting.
What are your prior limits? How often, or how well do you pay? If you pay annually your insurance and you pay on time, you're going to get a better renewal rate.
Oh.
If you are always in cancellation because you pay quarterly, let's say, they're going to charge you more next year because you're creating more of an expense for the insurance company. So some of the things that have unfortunately changed is a little bit skewed away from what I think is more important on the insurance is the coverage to now everybody just wants to save a buck. Well, to answer the save the buck question, pay on time. Don't file small claims on your homeowners like 1,000 or 2,000. Make sure you do maintain your house a little bit, like trim some of the trees away, get the moss off your roof, maybe invest in your home with a water or a temperature device that, alerts you on your phone if your heat gets turned off or if the water's flowing too long. Put a little bit of time into it so you don't have a homeowner's claim.
Hmm.
Obviously, don't use your phone, Jill, while you're driving.
No, I never would do that. I'm definitely not recording this while we're driving, I promise.
Those things will help your premium, but also don't shortchange yourself by trying just to save 50 bucks and now taking on a large deductible for your windshield. Take a few minutes to really understand and tell your agent if something's changed. Like I would ask Jill, have you and your spouse, have you guys added on to your house? Have you done an upgrade? And some people say, oh, yeah, I did an addition where I increased it by 1,000 square feet. Well, that's a good thing to tell your agent because you don't want to be underinsured.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with a small business. Oh, now I own the condo I'm in versus a tenant. So, you want to have these discussions, which may cause the premium go up, but now you're properly insured.
Right, exactly. Well, so can I ask, all right, I want to recap because I took some notes because quite frankly, I'm cheap and I want to make sure that, no, I shouldn't say that. I'm not cheap. I'm cheap, but I'm cheap when I want to pay for the right thing. So, like with my health insurance, I'm dealing with this right now where I'm frustrated by the plan that we're on, and it's at my wife's company, and we're going to be able to change soon. But I'm frustrated because it sounded great up front, and now I'm like, every time I turn around, there's more bills, and I'm like, blah. So anyway, so I'm frugal with my money, but I want to get what makes sense for my family and protects us. So I'm hearing you
Yeah,
say, and one thing I love is pay on time, and if you're able that. And I didn't know this, the idea of like say with auto, like I've always just paid it annually, I mean monthly but if I paid it up front, which I could do, I might save a little bit on renewal. So that's cool. So pay on time. The idea of not doing these small claims on your homeowners, for instance, and I think that's important, but also I just want to check, Bud, because people have said to me that like if you have a problem, you shouldn't put it through your insurance if for your house because they won't renew your policy. But if it's a big enough thing, I should go ahead and put it through, even though it could affect a renewal. Is that
that's true.
okay?
I mean, the insurance company obviously is charging a premium based on claims history as well as driving history or, where you live, because you pay different rates depending on where you live. But
Right.
I mean, if a tree falls down in your yard and it's $1,000 to have the person come out, cut the tree up, and take it away, and you have a $500 deductible, you don't want to put that claim in because part of your homeowners is a loss-free credit.
Okay.
So the insurance company is going to take away the credit for a few years, so your rate's going to go
Okay.
up. Now, they're not going to cancel you for a claim, big or small, to be honest with you. Most of the time, they're going to keep
Okay.
you. The person they don't want is when they say, "Oh, I've got a small water claim for 2,000. Then I had a tree fall down.
Uh,
Oh, then I had, another problem on my house." So it's more of a frequency thing where you jeopardize the renewal
okay.
more than actually just one claim. But that's where your independent agent is much more valuable as well because you can call them and say, "Should I put a claim in?
Hmm.
This is what I think it's going to cost to repair the house or the car." That's the communication part with the local and independent agent.
No, I love that. And I like the reminder to take care of your home, not all the major things, but you said like just, kind of cutting back and those. One thing I heard recently, I was talking and working with a roofer, and he talked about how insurance companies are using drones to analyze the home from that vantage point. Is that in fact from your point of view what's going on? And is that something newer that's being done?
Well, yes, the answer is yes. what happens is either when it's new business for our agency, Sumner and Toner,
Hmm.
or longstanding renewal, the insurance companies like to inspect your home.
Hmm.
So in the years ago, Jill, they would just sit on your front, lawn, look up, take a picture, and try to make a determination if the roof looked good or not. Now, it's not just drones, they actually have satellite images
Oh, wow.
of your house. So when you talk about
Yep.
AI, I can access the roof from a satellite, not just a drone.
Wow.
Now, what the insurance companies are looking for is a worn roof. Is there moss on the roof? Are there shingles missing?
Right.
But a lot of it's just a simple question of, Jill, is how old is your roof? Do you know?
Oh God. Well, I'm a unique situation. I live in
Okay.
a house that was built in 1885, and I'm in the historic district. And needless to say, I wasn't asking for myself, but if a drone is flying over as we speak, I'm screwed. Because we have, I have a turret, and a lot of shingles have come off of the turret. But I do know that I know it's time to get a new roof, but I also know it's probably we're looking at yeah, lots of figures in that, lots of zeros. So
No, and that's one of the tough parts is the conversation we have to have about a maintenance issue, not a claim issue. Because if somebody says to me, "Hey, the insurance company's telling me I need a new roof," and I'll say, "When was the last time you did it?" "Oh, 1995." Well, that's 30 years ago. The lifespan of most roofs are 20 to 30 years.
right.
So what the insurance company wants is you to maintain it so that you don't have a water claim. They don't want the ice dam. They don't want It's not a matter of a tree falling through it. Whether the roof's new or not, the tree's going to fall through. It's the water.
Right, right. No, and I mean, yeah, I've worked with, like I meant, I worked for years ago. I used to work for a roofer as their marketing director, and I learned a lot. And it's, people get mad, and I'm like, they can't put a new roof over your existing roof. You already have two layers. Like they can't do it, and they would be really, really mad, or they didn't want to pay to replace the I was going to say sheetrock, not sheetrock, the plywood. And it's like, well, that's not safe, or proper attic insulation, like all of these things that people think that, in this case, that roofers were just trying to add on to the bill. And it's like, no, some of this is really about safety. And then long term, it's also about cost savings because obviously from an energy standpoint, but then from an insurance standpoint, right? It all plays into each other. So,
Right. And nobody wants to have a claim.
no.
The insurance companies don't want it, but neither do you. Trust me, a claim is a lot worse than
Oh,
going through the headache of putting a new roof
I
on.
mean, I think we're probably pretty lucky that in the 413, and I'm knocking on my head, which is what I consider wood. But I mean, if you look at what's going on across the United States with fires and floods and tornadoes and major hailstorms, and, not that we have nothing in Western Mass because, not too long ago we saw, a few tornado bursts and such. But I think that we're relatively lucky that we don't have some of these, extraordinarily awful weather events. So you mentioned too, and then we do have to wrap up. I'm normally I say, oh my God, this is so fascinating. I don't want to hang up. And I don't want to say like I never mean it before, but what I didn't think insurance would be interesting to talk about, but you made it. I like to say you taught me like I'm in, I'm a 5-year-old, Bud. So I appreciate that because I think it's something that can go over people's heads and it's important. But you mentioned the idea of, not using your phone while driving. And I'm raising my hand. I'm guilty. And I bet you right now, if you're listening, raise your hand. I see you. I see you over there. And you over there. You might be listening right now in the car and trying to play with your phone. So don't play with your phone. It's so dangerous and does definitely cause problems and illegal in Massachusetts. But my last question was, what are your thoughts, Bud, around renters insurance? So
Mhm.
I now own, but for years and years, I was a renter and I never got it. And people would say, I think it was like, my mom and my grandparents, you should have renters insurance. And I was like, I don't need renters insurance. What do you think about that? Because I'm noticing more families are now having to rent because of the cost of home ownership. So what do you think about renters insurance?
100% needed, and it's very, very inexpensive. So all you're really concerned about is your contents, and you get to pick the number. How much do you want to insure of your clothes, your computers,
Mhm.
any items that you have? Like, Jill, what do you like to do? Do you like to ride bikes, ski? What's your activity outside of
Yeah, I do. Well, I don't actually do much besides work, but yeah, I know biking, and things like you mentioned, like computers. Like I have some nice technology, and I want to make sure that that's protected.
Okay, so if the items are in your car, you drive up north to go biking, and your computer and your other items are in your car gets broken into. Your auto insurance doesn't cover those items. It's
Oh,
your renters or your tenants. So as I've told many people, it's not just protecting your contents inside your little apartment.
wow.
Your contents are protected inside your car. Your contents are protected if you go on a trip, something of that nature. And with the contents coverage, you also get liability coverage. So, Jill, if you and your wife happen to have a party, you overserve somebody and they drive away and something happens, they sue you, even though you're only renting, you have some liability insurance. So, it's you're looking at maybe $200 to $300 a year for a nominal $25,000 of contents coverage with a half a million of liability, but it covers you more than just inside your four walls of your apartment.
Now, see, Bud, if my mom had explained it like that, I might have bought it. But not, no, I'm just kidding. Thank you so much. That's really, I appreciate that because I do feel like right now I know a lot of people who wanted to get into a home and own it, but they weren't able to. So they're renting and they're like full grown adults with full grown adult stuff and full grown adult responsibilities. So renters insurance would be great. And you can call Bud or Jack and talk to them. So unfortunately, we have to wrap up. But again, today, in case you didn't know who this was, it's Bud Sumner, one of the two partners that make up Sumner and Toner Insurance Services, the other one being my buddy Jack. And the show is Biz Buzz 413. I'm your host, Jill Munson, and we do constantly look for ideas. So if you have an idea for the show, specifically our Beyond the Biz Card series, it's something new we're doing where we're kind of trying to dig in and get to know the person a little more. If you have an idea for that, feel free to send over and tell me all about the person's awesomeness. And before we go, Bud, could you just tell people how can they reach you? What's your website? And do you prefer email or phone? How can people find you if they want to talk to you?
As you have many different ways. So sumnertoner.com is our website. Local number's the 413-567-6161 or bsumner@sumnertoner.com. We have Sumner Toner Insurance on Instagram as well as LinkedIn.
Awesome. And I will do my best because I never can promise it actually works right to link all of that. And I appreciate you being here. And again, Living Local 413 appreciates Sumner and Toner supporting us as a member. It's very pivotal for our success and affordable for all different types of businesses. So if you're interested in becoming a Living Local 413 member, definitely email me and I can tell you more. The email is bizbuzz@livinglocal413.org. And as I close every show with my reminder that when you go to bed tonight and you put your head down on your pillow, know that you can dream that you live in, and it's a reality, the best part of the country, the 413.